Hello and welcome back to the lecture series on human resource management. So, we are currently learning about organizational culture, and in the previous lecture we learnt about what are the steps to create an organizational culture and why it is important. So, the step 1 would be defining the vision, mission and the core values. Then you must involve leadership from day 1 because they are the role models, they have to bring the culture into being. Then third step would be hire for cultural fit. So, start hiring people not just for their skills, but their alignment with your organization's values. Then you must create rituals and symbols, which is how you celebrate the achievements or some important days of your employees. What are the symbols you are using? It can be through the design, the dress code, the logo, etc. And most importantly, you must communicate your culture and reinforce that this is your culture and you have to follow. And how it can be done? It can be done through onboarding, through team meetings, through newsletters, through storytelling, etc. And also ensure that your HR policies and processes are aligned with whatever culture you want to reflect. Then train and develop cultural champions, measure and monitor cultural health. So, these were certain steps of creating an organization culture. So, let us now understand that how the Tata Group created a legacy of ethical and purpose driven culture. So, the real world example of how the Tata Group created and sustained a strong organizational culture which is widely regarded as one of India's most respected and reputable business houses. So, what did Tata Group do to build this kind of a legacy? I won't say it's a culture, it's a legacy which is ethical and purpose driven. So, number 1, the cultural roots in the founder's vision. So, Jamshedji Tata, the foundation of Tata's culture dates back to Jamshedji Tata, the founder in the late 1800s. So, his philosophy was grounded in nation building. So, he was not concentrating or focusing on the profits, but the ultimate vision was nation building, employee welfare and ethical entrepreneurship. So, according to him, in a free enterprise, the community is not just another stakeholder in the business, but is in fact the very purpose of its existence. So, these words clearly indicate the founder's vision. So, this founder mindset laid the groundwork for a deeply ingrained culture of integrity, of social responsibility, of employee care, excellence and innovation. So, see how they have balanced to be profitable yet be socially responsible, to be caring for their employees, to be following integrity, to be excellent and great innovators as well. The second is the vision, values and the leadership stewardship. So, the Tata Code of Conduct and Tata values are integrity, responsibility, excellence, pioneering, unity, and these are not just symbolic, they are actively lived and enforced across all Tata companies. So, Tata is again a diversified brand and it is into so many other businesses also, but what is common is its culture, its integrity, its responsibility towards the people, the nation, the environment, their pursuance of excellence, pioneering and unity. So, under the leadership of J.R.D. Tata, these values were institutionalized further. So, the focus on employee welfare, where Tata Steel was one of the first in India to offer PF, gratuity and medical benefits. There is a culture of trust and transparency in corporate governance. There is a strong emphasis on ethical leadership even at the cost of short term profits. So, this is how a culture of ethical leadership, of trust is built. The third aspect is the strong HR and structural alignment. So, Tata Group created structures to embed culture into everyday functioning. So, here we can take the example of the Tata Administrative Services or the TAS, which is a leadership pipeline that trains future managers in Tata's cultures, values and ethics. So, this is nothing but the succession planning that we talk about in the HR domain. So, there is a Tata Code of Conduct training for all levels. There are regular ethics audits and whistleblower policies to maintain that there is accountability. Then there is the crisis handling as cultural anchoring. So, you all must have heard about the 2008 Mumbai attacks. So, the Tata Group's handling of the Taj Mahal hotel crisis became a defining moment, and you must be aware that that particular incident is used as a case study, that why the employees did not leave the people. They could have saved their own lives and ran from the hotel where there was a terrorist attack, but they did not leave their guests because it was their duty to protect them. But how many of us would actually think of putting our own lives at risk just to help somebody, just to help your customer whom you might not be seeing in the future also? For strangers, how many of us would risk our lives for any total stranger? But that was the culture of Tata. So, Ratan Tata, he personally visited the affected families, employees were supported financially and emotionally, and no staff was laid off despite significant losses. So, this reinforced Tata's image as people first, empathetic and resilient, which are the hallmarks of a strong culture. So, next aspect is the community and nation building. So, Tata's commitment to CSR and nation building has long been interwoven with its business philosophy. So, 66% of the Tata Sons is owned by philanthropic trusts like the Tata Trust. So, contributions to education like institutions like IIT Bombay, IISc Bangalore, Healthcare, Tata Memorial Hospital and rural development are part of its identity. The Tata Sustainability Group, it works to align business goals with the UN's Sustainability Development Goals. Then there is cultural continuity across all the companies. So, despite being a conglomerate of over 100 companies, be it TCS, Tata Steel, Titan, Tata Motors, etc., the culture of ethical behavior, service to the nation and long term thinking is a common thread. So, this is common in all these conglomerates, all these companies, whether you are selling steel or you are selling gold. Tanishq is also a brand of Tata, or you are selling watches, or you are selling cars. That culture is continuous, uniform, consistent. Each Tata company upholds the shared identity but is empowered to evolve its own subcultures within those boundaries. So, where does organizational culture come from? Now that we have understood the creation of organizational culture, but where does it stem from? Where does it come from? So, organizational culture, I have often said, that is not built overnight. It evolves gradually, shaped by internal and external influences, because ultimately every organization is working or is under the influence of so many factors. These can be internal as well as external factors, and the environment is always dynamic. It is ever changing, ever evolving. So, if the environment is changing, you also have to change and evolve. Now, let us deep dive to look at the 8 major sources of organizational culture. The first one being the founders and early leadership. So, just now we have taken the example of Tata, that how their founders had a vision of nation building, of having being accountable for their actions, and how they built a legacy of ethical culture. So, founders are often the original architects of an organization's culture. Their personality, their risk tolerance, their work ethics and leadership style, it gets imprinted on the organization, though unconsciously. So, the early team, it would mimic these traits and they eventually become the norm. So, whatever the leader is doing, whatever the founder believes in, whatever his personality is, the new joinees would learn them, would try to mimic these traits, and that is how it eventually gradually becomes the norm. So, founders define what success means. So, if for you success means more profits, that would become the culture. For you, if employee welfare means success, to have happy employees is what success means to you, then that would again become your culture. How employees should behave. So, founders also define that how the employee working in my organization should behave with the customers, with each other, with the superior, with the vendors, with the shareholders. So, founders would define that. Then what to prioritize? What is your priority? Is speed your priority? Is numbers, gaining numbers your priority? Is quality your priority, or is loyalty your priority? So, this is also defined by the founder, and this is how the culture is built. When you answer all these questions, the culture is built. So, Walt Disney emphasized imagination, storytelling and cleanliness as the values that still define Disney's culture today. The next source is organizational mission, vision and the core values. So, culture crystallizes around the why of the organization. Why are we existing? Which is its mission, and the vision, and the how is its core values. So, these guide the strategy, the recruitment, the internal communication, and when practiced sincerely means you have to act on it. It is not just for display on the walls. That would actually help develop a purpose driven culture. So, you must be very clear as to what is your vision, what is your mission, what are your core values. So, Tata Group's values like integrity and social responsibility, it shaped the culture of trust and ethical behavior. Google's mission to organize the world's information. Now, this supports a culture of curiosity, openness and experimentation. The third source is industry and business environment. Every industry also has its own culture. An education industry, an IT industry or hospitality industry, all would be having different cultures. So, your business or your organization would be impacted by which industry you belong to. So, different industries, they demand different behaviors influencing their organizational culture. For example, a tech startup would want more agility, more creativity and lesser hierarchy and more flat structures. Whereas, in a manufacturing firm, you require more efficiency, more precision and strict process adherence. You do not have to be very creative when you are into a manufacturing firm, or you do not require a flat structure, but yes, what matters is, or we can say what your priority should be, precision and strict process adherence. Whereas in a pharma company, you emphasize more on the regulatory compliance, on ethics and patient safety. So, every industry is also having its own culture. So, Infosys has a structured process driven culture due to its global IT service context, whereas Netflix, which is operating in the media tech world, it promotes a freedom and responsibility kind of a culture that encourages independent decision making. Then another factor or another point of influence or source of influence is the national and the regional culture. Every organization is existing in a particular country, in a particular region, and every region also has its own culture. Culture of Gujarat is different from culture of Punjab, and culture of India would be different from the culture of Europe or US or China or Japan. So, these regional, national, international cultures also impact the organization's culture. So, geography shapes mindsets. So, culture in an organization often mirrors your national cultural values like communication style, like hierarchy, time orientation and risk aversion. So, Hofstede's dimensions help explain this, how India is a high power distance respect for authority, whereas in Japan there is collectivist culture where the emphasis is on teamwork. On the other hand, US has an individualistic culture where there is more assertiveness, but in the innovation here is encouraged. So, every country would also have its own culture which is reflected in the organization's culture. Toyota's emphasis on team consensus and continuous improvement, which is called Kaizen, that reflects the Japanese values. Silicon Valley startups value informality and flatness, which is influenced by American cultural norms. So, the next source is the organizational structure and the HR policies. So, the structure of the organization reflects and reinforces its culture. How? So, there are hierarchical structure where there is formal communication and there is command and control culture. Means there are levels, it can be top management, middle management and the entry level or the low management, and the communication would be top to down. So, there is always a formal communication and command and control. So, command is coming from top and flows down to bottom. But in flat structures, there is more open communication, there is autonomy and there is collaboration and innovation. So, there is no hierarchy, there is no top level or middle level, these are called flat structures. So, HR policies such as recruitment, rewards, promotion criteria, conflict resolution mechanisms, etc., they either reinforce or erode culture. So, means these HR policies and the organizational structure, they can either reinforce a particular culture if you want to have a strong culture, but it at the same time if you are not following the rules and regulations, then it might erode the culture and the organizational culture becomes diluted. So, if a company says that it values collaboration, but only promotes individual performance, the culture becomes competitive rather than team oriented. So, as I said that if you are saying that you like collaboration and you value collaboration, but if you are promoting an individual performer, what would happen is that everybody would see that an individual performer is being rewarded or is being promoted. So, he or she would become less of team oriented and would rather want to perform individually. So, you have to walk the talk. Then another source is socialization and onboarding practices. So, the way new employees are introduced to the organization significantly shapes the continuity of culture, because it is these people who are going to continue the culture, retain the culture, reinforce the culture, because the founders might be no longer there in the organization. So, how do you make sure that the culture that was created by the leaders, by the founders is still persistent in the organization. It is the employees who are coming. So, they are the ones who are significantly shaping the continuity of the culture. So, there should be orientation programs, mentorship and informal norms transmitted during onboarding become cultural carriers. So, long tenured employees often teach new employees how things really work. So, the older employees, they can teach or tell the new employees that how things here work. This has to be done and these things should be avoided, because this is not our culture. And you must have seen in your organization, if you are working, that often the senior people tell that don't do this, this is not our culture, or you must do this thing in this particular way, this is our culture. So, that is how the older employees or long tenured employees can teach the new employees. So, Zappos, it often offers new hires a quitting bonus if they feel they do not fit in, ensuring cultural fit. TCS conducts structured training in its initial learning program, embedding values early. So, they try to imbibe these values in the people who have recently joined. Then another source, an interesting one, is the stories, rituals and the symbols. So, culture is often communicated through narratives. How a particular narrative is built around the culture of the organization, and this narrative is again communicated to you through the old tenured people. So, when you join, there is a narrative that is said that this is how things are done here, this is what should be avoided, this is not done in our organization. That is again building a narrative, building a perception through daily habits, and of course, the visible signs are there. So, there are always numerous stories about the founder, how he came up with the idea of this particular business or the organization, how he collected the funds, how he managed setting up this organization, what has been the past achievements, how a particular crisis was handled. They all carry lessons about the company's true values. So, just we learnt about the Taj attack in Mumbai. So, that is again a story to tell, and a very emotional and motivating story at the same time, that how these people, they did not leave the hotel, they did not leave their guests, but risked their own lives. So, that is a crisis situation, but how the people of Taj Hotel, the employees of Taj Hotel, how they handled that particular crisis, that story in itself reflects the company's values, which means that it reflects, it mirrors the company's culture, what they were taught in the organization. So, these stories are a huge source of organizational culture, how you can continue and you can retain the culture. Then rituals like Friday shout outs, annual retreats or celebration of even the failure lessons, they create a shared identity. You feel that I am not the only one who failed, there are other people also who had failed, and that bonding comes out. Then symbols include your dress code, your office layouts or artifacts, language or the slangs that are often used in an organization, they are also part of the culture. So, Apple's minimalist office design reflects its focus on simplicity, but design excellence. You must have seen Apple products, they are minimalist, means they are, you can't see or you do not see too many features in it. The design is very simple, but it is known for design excellence. Similarly, Infosys's campus architecture, it conveys its seriousness about learning and professionalism. Then there are past crises and major events, which is again a source of organizational culture. So, key moments, especially the crisis, are the defining points in the formation of culture. how an organization responds to setbacks, to layoffs, to scandals, to successes, that tells employees what truly matters for them. And we have seen it during the COVID pandemic also, that many organizations laid off their people, reflecting that they do not bother about their people. They bother more about the financial aspects or the profits. But yet there were other organizations who did not lay off a single person, no matter how hard it was for them to survive. But still they thought of their families and they did not lay off even a single person. So these crises define an organization. These moments become part of organizational folklore, shaping the behavior for years. So Johnson and Johnson, this is again a crucial case study. It recalled Tylenol quickly during a tampering scandal in 1982, and their crisis response reinforced a culture of customer first ethics. So they did not care. So the sooner they came to know about this particular tampering scandal of the bottle of Tylenol, they quickly retrieved the entire batch. Organizations that survive mergers or acquisitions, they often develop hybrid or conflicted cultures depending on how the transition is managed. So friends, with this we come to the end of this particular aspect of creating culture. Why creating culture is important, what are the steps of creating an organizational culture, and where does culture come from? What are the sources of building an organizational culture, starting from the leaders, the stories that are there, how you handle crisis, how there are stories around every organization, how there is a socialization and onboarding practices, the organizational structure and HR policies, the national as well as the regional cultures, they also are a source of organizational culture. So we will continue with more topics on organizational culture. Thank you.